Good. Finally. Immigration. Another big change in immigration policy. We've essentially gone from a huge amount of unconstrained immigration, which clearly the president ran on countering and has done, but to a United States that is, much, much more skeptical of immigration, both, legal and illegal.
Yeah.
Is that good?
So I'm still angry at the Biden administration for what they allowed to happen, okay? And I think it's severely damaged our country. And they say, oh, there's nothing you can do about it. No, Trump comes in, boom, it's closed. God bless them. If countries have to control their borders, or they will cause huge problems. And you have that all over Europe, and it's even worse there because in America, most people coming to America want to be American. They come to work. They can't wait to become a citizen of the United States of America. That's not true for most of the European immigration. I was with President Trump when Trump won, and I said to him, when you get the borders controlled, fix the rest of it. DACA stay, he said, yeah. More merit-based, he said, absolutely. A path to citizenship for hardworking people, absolutely. Proper asylum. I would urge him to do that. I think he can because he controlled the borders and stuff like that. So yeah,
Do you see much evidence of that?
Not yet. A little bit in the merit side. You see them talking about it in the merit side and places. And of course, I don't like what I'm seeing, with 5 grown men beating up little women. Okay, so I think we should calm down a little bit on the internal anger about immigration. And for those people, I've heard Trump say, even this term, hey, we need these people. They work in our hospitals and our hotels and restaurants and agriculture, and they're good people because we all know them. They are good people, and they should be treated that way.
That's not what you're seeing on the streets of
you know what? I don't. Yes, it's not always what you see, and I think rounding up criminals is one thing. I don't have a chart that shows. And this is why I'm a fanatic about detail. Show me who's been rounded up. Are they here illegally? Are they criminals? Did they do some law? Did they break American law? But I don't like what I'm seeing. But it's hard for me to tell whether that's just, what the liberal press plays or whether there's more truth to that.
You're beginning to sound quite Trumpy in this. The liberal press plays.
I'm not Trumpy. I'm a realist, and I like facts and detail and not binary shit that goes on all the time with.
We can agree on.
I think The Economist is the absolute best, most analytical thing in the world, and you should continue that. So.
Absolutely. Well, if we do. We are and we do. Let's talk about one other area, institutions. Attacks on institutions and undermining of independent institutions, the Fed being the obvious one. There has been, and I don't think I'm, being, as you would say, too binary on this, there have very clearly been pressure on the Fed. Notably, 10 days ago, the announcement by Chair Powell that he had received a subpoena for a criminal investigation. Yeah. Is that a good idea?
Everyone I know, including President Trump, says we should have an independent Fed is critical. I've never seen anyone actually that's not. Now, they're not completely independent, just so you know. There's 2 parts to the Fed. One is monetary. That needs to be independent. The other is regulatory. Huge overreach. That's not independent. That's law. And let me finish. I don't like, I think the things that undercut independence are not good. So I think some of those words, I don't like lawfare. I've had to deal with lawfare my whole life. I mean, going way back, we're constantly being, unfairly sometimes, fairly sometimes, but blown out of proportion. I think that undercuts it. So I think, Powell will be gone in 5 months. I think, constant statements is a mistake. And just so you know, the Fed doesn't really set interest rates. Okay, just listen closely to me. What happens if inflation goes up? They raise interest rates. What happens if inflation goes down? They reduce interest rates. They are a fast follower. And if you look at all Fed history, it isn't like they're completely independent. And the last time, and by every American president wants lower rates, but the last time a president jawboned lower rates was Arthur Burns, President Nixon, who had a 60% approval rating when he got elected. Inflation was only 3.5%. It kept on going up. Of course, there was Watergate and the oil crisis, but, markets were down 40%. He resigns in disgrace. Inflation, and with deficits and deficits are inflationary, with deficits half what they are today, it went for 4%, 5%, 6%, 7%. And you can come up with all the reasons, stronger unions, the oil issues and all that, but inflation is a bugaboo, and the Fed has to deal with inflation. And that's a judgment of a lot of people, what that means. So,
but just to be very clear, what we're seeing now is lawfare and you're against it.
I don't like the courts doing stuff like that. I think they should be very thoughtful about when they pick something up like that.
One of the other policies that the president announced recently...
But this has been going on my whole life, too. So this isn't just President Trump.
I get that.
Okay? So let's be clear about, DOJ overreach. It's been consistent now for 20 years. And in the old days, the DOJ would step into something when it was referred to them by, either civil or criminal. Now they just read the paper and step in. And that's the mistake. Because, to them, they're a hammer. To them, everything's a nail. And
one of President Trump's recent proposals that would directly affect you, he's doing it to improve affordability, is to impose a 10% cap on credit card rates. Is that a bad idea?
It would be an economic disaster. And I'm not making up because our business, we would survive it, by the way. You would, if you, in the worst case, you'd have to have a drastic reduction of the credit card business. I mean drastic. I mean like 10%. I mean like 80%. It would remove credit from 80% of Americans, and that is their backup credit. But I have a great idea. Since there's a huge disagreement on this one, between Republicans and Democrats, I think we should test it. And my view, and I can't do this, because it'd be antitrust. But the government can do it. They should force all the banks to do it in 2 states, Vermont and Massachusetts, and see what happens. and then I think the left will learn everyone who thinks manipulating price will learn a real lesson. And the people crying the most won't be the credit card companies. It'll be the restaurants, the retailers, the travel companies, the schools, the municipalities, because people will miss their water payments, their this payment and that payment. It would be something else to watch. I think they should test it.
Well, President Trump may be determined to test it more broadly.
Well, then, okay, whatever it is, we'll deal with it. I think it's wrong for the government to get involved extensively in pricing of stuff, but I got to deal with the world I got.
It's kind of interesting.
We're going to give them, at one point, real analysis on the effects of this. We've given some, but not a lot.
It's kind of interesting. When I ask you something that directly affects JPMorgan, you say it will be a complete economic disaster. Yeah. When I speak more broadly about geopolitics, you're very reluctant to criticize the president.
First of all, one I know exactly. The other one is more qualitative, how it's going to work, what are the pieces, what's their intent, how are people going to respond. They're not the same thing. But the economic, when you believe something to be true, you should say that. And so the economic of the card thing, we'll see.
Do you think CEOs...
But the other thing, I've not seen anyone, really, Republicans, senators, businesses, banks, credit unions, community banks, anyone think it's a good idea.
Do you think it is...
But it goes back to this thing about, this word affordability. Of course we want affordability. The Democrats don't want affordability. What we've screwed up as a nation is bad policy around housing, mortgages, affordability, health, immigration. We've messed up so many policies, which I write about. It's time to fix them, and I think the economists can help do that because you guys are really smart people. And so, and we constantly have this economic policy that we don't think it through. We've driven half the companies out of the public markets. What are we doing? Why did that happen? And then we just can't deal with reality anymore as a people because we want a simple answer to everything. And so,
when you tot up all the things we've been talking about, the president's policies, both geopolitically and economically, and the tech change that we're living through, do you think the U.S. economy is, on balance, in better shape or worse shape?
It's been hugely resilient. It's in pretty good shape. You're going to have a lot of stimulus early in this year, so you're going to, and multiple forms of it, from the one big beautiful bill to what they're doing with student lending to, some of the mortgage purchasing they're doing, deregulation of banks, which is real, deregulation, which feeds animal spirits. Our economy is so large and so integrated and so complex, and it's hard to always tell, but the innovation is unbelievable. You take a trip to Silicon Valley and look at these companies, it blows you away. The brain power going to fixing things and curing cancer and fixing machines. And so I think it's great. So you talk about economic policy, I think what government should be focused more on is policy conducive to growth. And then, of course, you have policies that help the old, the sick, the aged, et cetera. And we don't even do good in that in a lot of cases. So I think we could do a better job making the economy work for everybody. And it is a little bit of this K economy now. We do see that where, the upper income are doing far better. They got houses and stocks, and the lower side, they're back to normal, which is they don't have enough of a rainy day fund. Jobs are getting a little harder to get. incomes have stopped growing a little bit, and we're quite conscious of that. And I think there are things we can do. Like, for example, and we've done analysis, I would double the earned income tax credit. I would give people working more money as a negative tax. So you're making $14,000, you get a check from the government of $12,000. I get rid of the child requirement. Then you're giving it to the people who actually use it to further their lives, spend in their communities, take care of their kids, as opposed to government dictating, how you spend money on every little thing you do. And so I think there are real fixes that make society work better for everybody. And
would you raise taxes to pay for that?
I don't think you'd have to. I think it would drive a lot of growth. I think I did the numbers at one point. It'd be $60 billion of spending. I think it would probably create more than that of growth and taxes. And if you have to raise taxes a little bit, that's fine. But again, I don't want to have the binary argument. I don't know anyone, okay, and you guys in the room, you might be Democrats, Republicans, who thinks the spending that sending another $1 trillion to Washington, D.C. will actually improve anything. So when you say raise taxes, if you said raise taxes and directly give it to the people who need it, I'd do it.
So
but that doesn't know what happens.
We are running out of time.
It goes to all these interest groups, and they give it to their friends and all that, and which is why the people consider it a swamp. It's kind of a swamp. There's 17,000 lobbying groups, but bank companies are guilty too. They're just fighting for their one self-interest as opposed to what's good for my country. But that's what happens in Congress. And you see how these bills get spent. Like the CHIPS Act was a good idea until. It had to be unions, place-based, child care, diapers. What the hell are we doing? And we do it over and over, and then it fails, and then we spend more money because the problem is we didn't spend enough money.
So you're a man with many strong opinions. We've heard that in the last few minutes. Man, not afraid to tell us about those opinions. But I was struck when we were talking about President Trump. You were very, very careful. And you are one of the more outspoken. Just let me finish. Well, you are one of the more outspoken business leaders. I'm genuinely struck by the unwillingness of CEOs in America to say anything critical. There is a climate of fear in your country. Would you agree with that? And what should be done about it?
This is the Davos intellectual elite. I've been coming to Davos all these years and listening to chatter and stuff like that. He didn't do a particularly good job making the world a better place. I think it's great we get together and talk. But what you want me to do, this is.
I wanted to answer my question. It's not hard.
One headline that gets raised up.
No, I don't. A million different Jamie, that's not true. I'm genuine. I've asked you this question off camera.
I've made it clear. I want a stronger NATO, a stronger Europe. Some of the things Trump has done are causing that. Some are not. I'm not a tariff guy, though I'd use it in the 8 cases I had. I think they should change their approach to immigration. I've said it. What the hell else do you want me to say?
Is there a climate of fear?
I think that is completely clear. Hey, ready? Here's your headline. I'm a globalist.
I'm not looking for a headline. I'm trying to have a conversation. I'm not looking for a headline. But I enjoyed that. We're running out of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.